I didn't check today, but yesterday we were up to 177 cases. And as a frame of reference, we had 65 cases on December 3rd. So we have almost reached a 300% increase since the 1st of December, which is roughly about 6 weeks. So the spread in town is typical of most towns in Eastern Connecticut, but the rest of the country now is plateauing and we're still rising.
I like that report. Sorry.
Well, yeah, I don't like it every day either.
Sandy, can you tell us, is it hidden? I don't know if you can even answer this. Is it hidden like all age groups and whatnot?
They actually don't share that specific information with us. Because Bolton is such a small community, it could end up being a HIPAA violation.
Okay.
So we just get total numbers.
Okay.
Okay. Well,
So we're still at 5 deaths, which I think we were at last month when we talked, and the hospitalizations have gone up and down a little bit, but not significant.
The vaccination program seems to be well on its way. Yukon and the Reshler Field facilities seem to have a lot more vaccines these days. There's lots of appointments available for those over 75.
Yeah, and they're hoping that by mid to end next week, they will announce the next group, which is the 65 plus. And then they anticipate that will take 3 to 4 weeks, and then move on to the remainder of group 1B, which is essential workers, municipal employees, and those with comorbidities, defined comorbidities, which as of today aren't defined.
okay. So, well, I mean, we'll also see if some of the things that Biden is trying to put in place, if any of that can get sped up at all. But I mean, at some point, supply and demand are the supply is going to be the limiting factor.
Yeah, I was on a call this afternoon with some folks from Yale, and they were saying that the number of folks seeking the vaccine is less than they had anticipated at this point. And they're blaming that on education.
Education of people to get the vaccine, not on teaching our children.
Correct.
Okay.
But you know, the area that Yale Hospital serves is a very different demographic than Bolton.
Yeah.
So,
okay. Anything else from a public participation? Thank you, Sandy, for that update. Slightly grim, but it is what it is. Okay. The next item is approval of minutes. So our meeting from December 17th.
Hopefully this is helpful. If you would prefer it that the screen not be shared, just let me know.
One change on page 1, not a huge deal. This towards the bottom, the last paragraph, 3rd line, V Sonics is actually View Sonics. VIEW Sonics.
move to approve with the chair's revision incorporated.
Thank you, Dick. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Charlie. I will go by roll call. Just say yay, nay, or abstain. Charlie,
Yay.
Kristen,
Yay.
Dick,
Yay.
Ross,
Yay.
Bob,
Yay.
and I also approve them. So minutes approved unanimously. If we can move on to the Board of Education update. I know we did not have anybody here from the Board of Education, and unfortunately, I missed the last Board of Ed meeting. All of a sudden, it was Friday, and I realized it had been the night before, so I apologize. I will tell you that the first week of January was remote for all students, and then coming back on the, I think it was the 14th, so last Monday, back to the normal schedule, K through 5, all in, 4 days a week, and middle school and high school, their hybrid schedule, where you have half the cohorts the beginning of the week, the other half the last part of the week. So that is, we are back.
Hear it.
Pardon?
Yeah, hear what? Oh.
Can you hear me, Bob, or am I too quiet?
I'm sorry, were you talking to me? I went and got Donna because I'm not seeing you guys here. So Donna's trying to help me.
Right now, we've got the Board of Ed report up. It looks like from at the end of December, they had expended 41% of their budget. And in previous years, it would be 40%. So it sounds like they're on track there.
I tried that. It's like frozen.
They're currently expecting their expenditures to 14,495, which is under expenditure of about 380,000. So if you recall from last year, starting in January, they started projecting if they were going to be over or under budget by particular amounts. So we're seeing right now that they're under expenditures by $318,000. They are going to ask for more coronavirus funding.
Hear you.
I know in our last meeting, they said that they had, I think, a third round, and actually it was it was a second round, and they were approved for it, which is great. And so hopefully that comes through too.
In that last round of relief that was passed for like $1 billion.
Mm-hmm. I don't know what.
There's like 740 million that's going to go toward education in the state of Connecticut.
So hopefully we can get a little bit of that as well. I mean, being a small district, it'll be a small percent, but
Oh, you bet.
yeah.
Emily, I've got
I'm thinking about.
a question. There was some type of a fund that Kristen had put in for, and I thought it was COVID relief. And she asked for a certain amount, but it came in significantly lower than she was hoping for. Does anybody know what that fund was? Because I'm looking back at my notes and I just can't find it at the moment.
Emily, if I may,
Yes.
if you look in the paragraph, on the please note paragraph, She said she requested 46,850 from the Coronavirus Relief Fund. Originally, we didn't anticipate that we would receive it all, but we did, and it's fully funded.
Okay.
Okay, that's what I was wondering. All right, thank you.
Mhm.
And in looking back at my notes, that was a sort of a second ask, and I think there was a small third ask that they were potentially still waiting for.
I believe you're right.
I think it was about $3,700. So.
And we got the second ask because they had spent the first ask expeditiously and effectively.
Yes.
And they
okay.
had already spent the 46,000, so it was already expended. So they were able to get reimbursed, whereas many school districts had not expended all of that yet because they hadn't received all of their product, whatever that product was.
Okay.
Since so many things are on back order, including half of my Christmas presents. I'm still getting Christmas presents delivered because they're all on back order. Anyway, does anybody else have any questions that I can talk to the Board of Ed and Kristen Hecht in case, I plan on meeting with them next week. So if there's anything that anybody has any questions, I can follow up with them.
Not at the moment, I guess.
Okay. If anybody thinks of anything, email me. And like I said, I plan on meeting with them sometime next week, and I can follow up and obviously report back. So then let's
Excuse
move
me,
on.
before we move on, can I ask? Before we move on, can I ask a question?
Yes, you may.
So you can hear me, right?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear.
So I'm technical difficulties. I'm on the Cape, and I'm getting a picture of me, which is doing me no good. Can't see you guys, so I can't raise my hand or anything else. So I'm gonna probably end up being more of a pest than normal. So, but I'm here.
That's fine. You break up just a little bit. It's not as clear as when you're at home, but I can see you and hear you. So yeah, just cut in if you need to.
Oh, okay. Okay,
And I
thank
will
you.
say the computer that I'm on, the hand raising doesn't always show up as clearly because I'm on a Linux machine. So if I miss your hand being electronically raised, please cut in and let me know so I don't miss all comments. Okay.
Bob Monroe, if you go to, on your screen, the little icon that looks like a checkerboard and click on that, you want to say view side-by-side gallery.
Yeah, but not. All I'm getting, Sandy, is the thing that says video preview, and it shows me, and all the, as far as cutting,
Okay,
Xing out or
then click
turn this thing
join.
green. It's just,
Does it have a join button?
I have, and it has join without video, join with video, but it's
Join
everything's
with
frozen.
video, which you've already done.
Right? And I can't get it to do anything else.
Very odd.
And Donna came out and said, well, maybe it's exceeded the bandwidth or something. I don't know. But
Well, we can
as
hear
long as
you
you guys don't
fine,
hear.
so
Yeah, and if you're breaking up, the other option you have, Bob, is you can mute yourself in this meeting and then call in and you will show up as a phone number joining the meeting. But it might be, your audio might be clearer that way.
Okay, well, I'll try to keep my comments in a minute. Sorry for the interruption.
no worries. Okay, then let's move on to the revenue summary.
Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year, Jill.
Happy New Year.
We've been together in so long, it seems. Our current tax levy is at 100.32%. versus last year, 101.31%. It's almost percent. Ironically, I thought this was very funny. The motor vehicles last year was at 95.28, the same as this year.
Okay.
And then we're actually up on supplemental motor vehicle. It's 32.78 this year. Last year, it was 17.31. And our total tax revenue collection is the 98.96. Last year was 100.09. So we're pretty close. Now we're not doing too bad.
Okay. Do we have, in terms of due dates for all of these bills, we've hit all of those due dates, like the supplemental has been sent out and they are now come due, correct?
They're coming in, but they did get that 3-month
That's
period, right, Sandy and Josh?
Yes,
Yeah.
the supplemental motor vehicle was granted a 3-month grace period by the governor. So it's possible that many people took advantage of that. We'll know that next month.
So when is that, what does that make the new due date?
It was originally due January 31st plus 3 months, February, March, April 30th.
Okay. Well, I mean, from a cash flow perspective, it means that we may still have funds coming in through, through April, which isn't typical. Okay. Any questions on tax collections? Then why don't we move on to, do you want to do other revenues?
Sure. I think Josh, can you find it, Josh?
For some reason, my computer is lagging quite a bit, but I am on the case.
Yep.
Instead, if you want to do the town update, since it's,
Yeah, there you go.
do that.
Here we go.
There we go. We did start receiving some of our state grant money, such as pilot and the disability and veterans grants and PQAT. So we did start receiving those funds slowly but surely. Let's see. I think we did discuss the law enforcement is really down compared to previous years. And let's see, the tuition, we did just get our second check in, I believe it was last week from Columbia. So that'll be in next month. The rest of them, I think, are pretty much on target for where they usually are for the most part. I don't know if anybody has any questions.
Any concerns, on any of these that we are hearing that we won't get?
I believe that, and we did get a small part of it, but the NCAA, I don't believe that is going to happen. And I don't know if, Josh, you know more about that than I do. I know that there was talk about not doing that program with the NCAA. We've only got 105. When I talked to Carrie last, which was a while ago, she was talking about doing something else, but I haven't spoke with her since. And that was probably a month or two ago. Mine and Mr. Monroe's all-time favorite of interest is not good.
Well, that's to be expected. Rates going down and down.
Yep,
We reaped it for a while.
yep, it was fun while it lasted. But other than that, I believe that we're down a student or two, maybe more than that, maybe up to 4 students from Columbia. I think 4 students less than they originally had anticipated. But other than that, at this point, I don't know of anything else.
I can ask Superintendent Hecht if what the Columbia student numbers are right now.
I know Casal had given it to me and I can look it up quick, but I believe we're down. I can look it up, but I believe we're down 4 students than they originally project.
All right, and they all ended up going to a technical school?
It's possible. I didn't get the reason, just that we were down 4 students. And next year, I don't think is looking really great either.
Yeah, well, next year we will figure out. Josh, do you want to give us the town
You've got it.
expenses?
So first and foremost, hello, everybody. I feel like it's been ages since I've seen all of you. I know that the last 2 Board of Finance meetings I've been unable to attend because of a series of mid-NEROC meetings that were unfortunately timed and unfortunately scheduled in terms of a conflict with this meeting. But I'm glad to be here tonight. And I'm also very glad to tell you, as you can see on the screen in front of you, for those of you who are joining us by video, that we are 42.18% expensed as of December 31st, 2020, which, as you can see with the 3-year look back, is the lowest percent expended that we've been in that look back period. So I think that as far as town expenditures go, I can say that we would be hard pressed to be in better shape at this point in time. I have highlighted for you several sections in, I apologize, I'm a little colorblind, but it's a bluish gray, to identify the various lines that are very fixed costs that really shouldn't concern you as you look through the percent expended numbers. And I have highlighted in yellow for you, as I always do, which budget sections are overexpensed when compared to the proportion of the way through the year that we currently are, as well as compared to the 3 prior look back years. So the only 2 lines in which we're slightly overexpended, this says town clerk and elections. That's actually not accurate. I apologize. It really should be the land use department that's highlighted. As you can see right below town clerk, land use has 53.78% expended as compared to 50.93% in the prior year. And given that this is halfway through the fiscal year, we want to see that under that 50% number. The land use department is slightly overexpended, largely as a result of the fact that we had to use extra hours from our planner, as she was working diligently in the first few months of the year to make sure that we were able to get our sustainable CT bronze certification, which I'm very proud to say we did attain, in case you hadn't heard. The elections department is another area in which we are more expended as compared to the prior 3 years. But what you'll note is that this is a 3-year look back, not a 4-year look back. If you look back 4 years, my imagining is that the number looks a little bit more similar to 4 years ago because it's been a presidential election season. Obviously, we were a little bit busier. We had record turnout. A lot of money went into making sure that we had absentee ballots made available for everybody. Proper mailings went out at proper times. And also, of course, PPE was made available to election workers, and PPE was also offered to any individual who came in to vote in person on election day, both election day for the general election and for the primary. So that completes my report. I think we're in really great shape. There are a couple departments that we have to keep our eye on, as always, but every department's really doing the hard work that they need to be fiscally responsible this year, given the current budget constraints. And I'm really proud of how things are going.
Josh, is the
Good
state
report.
going to give us some extra funds for the election?
The state has provided us with certain resources and funds for the election. Jill would have to speak to you about where exactly how that shows up in our reports. with the funds coming in from the state. I don't believe that you see that reflected here. If that's,
No, it's in a grant fund, so you won't see it here.
Can I just ask a quick question?
please.
When I look at the totals, and I'm looking at the 42.18, that is the overall total from everything in the column? Or is it excluding, say, for example, those light colored blue ones?
No, that is from everything in the column. It does.
So technically, even though in past years, we may not have expended as much money for the elections, and we in the past, it shows like 85% for the animal control where we are at 100% now. Even though those numbers are showing a major increase, our overall total is lower, our
Yes.
overall percentage. It shows we're doing even a better job than that 42% indicates. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. That's what I was getting as a gist from these numbers. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't missing something.
Yes, these are, in my opinion, they're very good numbers. Again, I'm happy to answer any questions that you have, but I don't want you to lose any sleep over this. We're in pretty good shape at this point in time as far as expenditures go.
Honestly, there are many other things that I'm losing sleep over. This is not it.
Mhm.
Oh.
It's time to get some good sleep.
Get me vaccinated, then I'll sleep well. Any other questions for Josh? Nice job. It's been a tough year and we had so many unknowns with how COVID was going to develop and we still don't. So being able to be frugal and tighten our belts has been, I think, a wise thing. So I much appreciate it.
Can I ask one last question?
Charlie has his finger up and then Dick.
Oh, thank you. Again, Josh, when I look at this, I'm wondering that with the numbers going up in the COVID issues, and right now, I believe the town is actually closed except for special appointments. Is that true? The
Closed.
town offices?
Closed isn't the word we're using, but we are not allowing individuals into the interior of town buildings unless they have a special appointment. That's correct.
Okay, so that would continue to allow us to look at this expense line and possibly generates another positive number from that as well? Is that a safe assumption? Because we may be able to save money on some of our other costs, such as electricity and.
Exactly. I know electricity and heating costs over not just this fiscal year, but at the tail end of the last fiscal year, we saw considerable savings. I think that will continue for the foreseeable future.
So even though the COVID thing is really not necessarily going away at this particular point in time, but with the advent of us getting our shots and everything, then it at a worst case scenario is that things should be about the same. They shouldn't be any worse as far as our budget goes, I would hope.
That's correct. I don't expect any sudden need for expenditures, with the exception of, as we saw earlier in this fiscal year, perhaps something relating to infrastructure. But of course, those are always unforeseeable.
Right. Thank you, Charlie. Dick, you had a question?
Yeah, under highways and streets, is snow removal under that? And if so, did the December storm costs get reflected in this number?
Yes, they did. So all of our sand and salt costs, as well as all of the overtime costs, are reflected in that number. And that does reflect the numbers related to the December snowstorm.
Would it make sense to, in the future, break out the repaving and regular road maintenance from that number, so that you had a separate line item for snow removal?
We can work on that for you. Absolutely. That's a good suggestion.
I mean, those are two kind of distinctly different activities, even though they're the same department.
Absolutely.
is ongoing maintenance, and the other one is Mother Nature and her wiles.
Yeah,
Right. The more volatile funds versus the more set in stone and concrete funds that we can predetermine the expenditure level.
yeah, exactly.
Good.
Thank you.
Great,
Problem.
great suggestion.
Another question?
Yes.
As part of that, I recall a couple months back that we were having some road work done. Was that completed successfully in time before the quote unquote onset of winter? And then those numbers must be included in there as well, I would think.
The Enrico Road repairs that were being done, because
Yeah.
that was a special allocation. I don't believe the number is reflected in the highways and street budget that you see here, but Jill, please correct me if I'm wrong. That being said, my understanding is that the work was completed perfectly in time. I know our town engineer was working diligently to make sure that it occurred before things got really cold back in November, December. And if you would like, I can get at least a written report next time from them explaining exactly the timeline and how that went.
I would
I'm
be
sure
curious
that
in
if there
terms
was
of-
an issue, you'd let us know. Otherwise,
Absolutely.
don't need to
Run it
report.
smooth.
Where would those be expensive? Where would that expense be reflected?
It is in capital reserve fund.
Okay.
Which is not reflected here directly, but we can get a report for you at the next meeting.
We haven't paid anything out of there yet. We have not been billed to my knowledge.
No, I haven't seen the bill come in.
No, just a purchase order, so it's really not going to tell you anything right at this point.
Okay.
Those funds are encumbered though, so.
Yes.
Right.
Correct.
Okay. Any other questions for Josh? Any other hands up or that I don't see? Okay. Fantastic. Then let us move on to what is next? The transfers.
Well, I can tell you from the town's perspective, we did have one transfer that occurred at the January Board of Selectmen meeting. And that was from the tax collector's professional educational training line to the tax collector's advertising line. As a result of there being so many changes to the tax collection timeline, we have had an increased need to try and get that information out. And as a result, the tax collector has spent a little bit more than she had originally anticipated in the advertising line. However, because so many things have been moved online and most any gatherings that have occurred, including conferences that have been moved online, are generally being offered at a lower cost. Attendance is coming at a lower cost. She easily has that money to spare in the professional and educational training line. So that transfer was approved unanimously by the board on January 5th.
Okay, great. Okay, the next item is just revisiting our budget review calendar for March, April, May. So this is what we discussed last meeting and agreed would be, the calendar that we're going to at least move forward with. Obviously, if our budget deliberations finish earlier, we may be able to cancel some of our meetings, but right now we are targeting that our public hearing is on January, February, March, April 27th, right?
Yes.
April 27th. Tuesday, we will figure out if that is a virtual or an in-person. I'm going to guess it's going to be virtual. When, Sandy, do you think you're going to set the date for the referendum, or do we even know if we're going to have a referendum?
First of all, we don't know if we will be allowed a referendum, and we won't likely won't know that until at least February 9th, which is the day the current executive orders expire. So our Board of Selectmen meeting for February happens before then. So I'm guessing we might be able to do it. We might be able to set the date at February, but we won't be able at that point to say whether it's going to be a referendum, an actual referendum or not.
Okay. And I think it will just be fluid until we are closer. I mean, with everything going on, there's no way we can be definitive about any of this stuff. So.
Josh, will you remind me to put that on the agenda for February, please?
No problem.
Okay.
Madam Chairperson,
Yes. Dick.
I have on my count, I'm showing here that we have a meeting scheduled for the 25th of March. Is that true?
Yeah. So the 25th of March is when the Board of Selectmen will be presenting their budget to us. The 18th of March is when the Board of Education is going to be presenting to us.
So the Democrats have a conflict on that night. Just be aware.
Okay. I will let Chris Davey know that we have a conflict, but I'm assuming, I know me personally, I will be at the Board of Finance meeting. So.
And so will the rest of us.
So, yeah, I will give him the heads up and he can maybe reschedule his meeting. Let me just make myself a note.
Emily, this is Linda.
Yes.
I have a conflict with the 25th as well.
Okay, yes, you mentioned last time. And I think we determined that we would be able to find somebody to take notes for in your stead that night.
Okay.
So Josh, remind me as we get closer to that, whether you want me to take notes or how we want to handle that.
Absolutely.
Okay. Any other questions on the budget review calendar? It's a good reminder to put them into your calendar. So then the other item, let's move on to new business, which is the Bolton, the Board of Finance budget for this coming year. So we need to vote on this. If you take a look at the budget from expenditures 2019 to 2020, you can see our total expenditures were 1613. What we're asking for this year is 2,200. If I recall, Jill, 2,200 is pretty much what we ask for every year, given that we don't know how many meetings that we have and therefore how much we need to pay to cover expenses for the clerk to take notes and everything else that goes into that. Correct?
Yes.
Okay.
The first line, the actual expenditures, is just what you spent that year. The other is what was budgeted for the fiscal year we're in now. Yes, but most of the time we just keep it flat.
We keep it flat.
Mhm.
And we have not yet spent the advertising because we haven't gone into budget season. We will be obviously doing posting of notices of the budget and everything else. And that's when we will start spending that, correct?
Yes.
So we obviously want to make sure that we have that in there for coming years because we are required to post things in various newspapers and.
Correct.
So does anybody have any questions about our meager budget?
We are, Emily, just allowed to roll over the whole amount that doesn't get used, correct?
No, nope. That's what goes as our surplus to the next fiscal year. No, this is 1 year and done.
Okay.
Yeah, so anything that we don't spend, just like any other department, what is not spent will end up being a bonus for next year's budget.
Right, that's what I was, yeah,
Oh, so in that case, yes. So it rolls into what are available funds to help fund next year's budget.
right, okay.
Correct, Jill? I'm going to say yes. Okay. I do need a motion. Is there a question? Sorry, I heard a voice. I do need a motion to approve this budget so that it can go to Josh and into the budget book for budget season.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Moved.
Okay, I heard Kristen first. Can I have a second?
Second.
Bob Monroe, thank you.
Madam Chairperson, I ask unanimous consent to pass this motion.
Very well. Do I have a unanimous consent to pass this?
I,
Aye.
Aye.
So all you need to say is hearing no objection. The motion is passed.
Okay, I wasn't quite sure what the right words were. So hearing no objections, the motion is passed. This is the Board of Finance budget that will go into the budget book for this upcoming budget season. Very good. Our next meeting is February 18th. And then after that, we will get our budget books from the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Ed, and we will start on our calendar of budget meetings. Is there any other conversations that we want to have before I adjourn this meeting? Very well, hearing none. I hope that everybody had a very happy holiday season and continues to stay safe and healthy. And I will see everybody smiling faces in a month.
All right. Take care, everybody.
Everyone.
Here.
Good night.
Stay safe.
All right.
Thank you for everything. Good night.